All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Rodney Ridley. Rodney, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Kev. I've been waiting for this for a minute now, and so excited about being here. Looking forward to this.
Same here, same here. And I'll tell you, I want to start off by giving a shout out to John Loyak because John was the one who introduced you and I, and John and I got introduced by this guy Ryan Smith, and you know Ryan as well, and and I'll tell you, that is the absolute best way to meet somebody new is through a connection from somebody that you already got a great relationship and you already appreciate and all of that. And I don't know what it was. You and I already got to have a conversation and get to know each other a little bit. And I don't know what it's like for you in that conversation, Rodney, but for me, it felt like you and I had already known each other for years just because of how we got connected. It's,
Absolutely, absolutely. I concur. I concur. Yeah.
yeah. So. Well, I'll tell you, we'll just dig right in here, and we're gonna have a great conversation today. And I'll just start with a nice, simple, easy question to get us rolling, and then we'll dig deeper from there. And so, but Rodney, let's just start with like talking about what do you do and who do you serve? You're in a unique background. It reminds me of my days in school and stuff, and so I'm yeah. So let's
Well,
just start
well,
there.
that's kind of a loaded question because I'm not sure I want to put out in the air. What do I do? Because then my boss will know, and then I might not be able to keep my job. So I want to keep that sort of a mystery, So the
Okay. All
person got to
right.
keep a little mystery to themselves. No, so officially I am, and they just changed our title. So officially I am the Chief Economic, Community, and Strategic Development Officer here at Alvernia University.
Okay.
For those of you out who are outside of higher education, or for those of you in traditional higher education, just think of the vice president for research, vice president for that economic development, and sort of a person in charge of our major initiatives, strategic initiatives, how we get into cities, how we get into different relationships, partnerships, and that sort of thing. So I have a lot of my colleagues do too, but we have a lot of purview over those sorts of things, sort of getting
Okay.
Alvernia into some unique things. Because here at Alvernia, we do things very differently, very different.
Yes.
Proud.
Yes. Yeah. And we'll get into some of that and stuff. So let's go back a little bit because when I was a kid, I had big dreams of becoming a fireman when I grew up, and I never did become a fireman. But I'll tell you, I would have never imagined doing what I'm doing today. And I'm so blessed to get to do what I do today. And I know you are too, Rodney. Let's back up. How did we even get here? What was your path? How did you get into doing the work that you now get to do?
So that I am what I call myself a administrative mutt, right?
Okay.
So I have a whole bunch of eclectic things, pieces from my background that have all led me to here. I think there's no real job for my background. I think that our friend John gave me this particular position based on all the kind of eclectic things I was doing. So the position was sort of formed around me, not me around the position, if you will.
Okay.
And I am, if you want to go strictly by, sort of training, by training, I'm an engineer. So
Okay.
I'm a materials engineer. I spent probably the better part of 15, 20 years making semiconductors. So
Okay.
semiconductor device processing, and have a lot of a rich and thorough background in engineering, and had a pretty good career in engineering. And at some point in time, started dabbling in higher education because we needed to do what we call direct funded projects. So we would offload some of the future research kind of work we needed to do to universities to sort of get us a head start so that when we got there to that part of the project development, we would have some answers already, right?
Okay.
So I eventually became one of the people in charge of at the company I worked for. I was in charge of what they called university relations. And
Okay.
so with that, I was kind of managing those things and
Uh-huh.
managing our internships and managing the company I worked for, we spent hundreds, probably $100 million in university relations. So it was a big operation that was across multiple sites. And so I got to see how universities operated from the other side.
Uh-huh.
I was
Uh-huh.
the guy on the other side of that, the request that I now make. I was that
Okay.
guy, right?
Okay.
And so I learned that universities, um, nobody's going, I'll say this to you, nobody else should hear this. So just keep this to me and you. But
All right.
universities weren't very good at partnering. They
Uh-huh.
weren't very good at it.
Mhm.
I used to go home and tell my wife, universities suck at this.
Uh-huh.
If I ever got to do that job, I would do that differently. Like, why are they doing that? They were doing things that I was like, I don't understand why you would do that. I'm trying to give you money. I'm trying to partner with you, and you're making it hard. I want to be your friend, and you're making it hard. Stop
Mhm.
making it hard. Just invite me in. Give me a cup of water. Sit
Mhm.
down, right? They didn't do it well at all. And of course, God has a sense of humor because, in 2008, I was running a small startup and we lost it in the tsunami of 2008.
Okay.
Right. And got the chance to go into a university I had been working with, Wilkes University, which is where I met John at. Wilkes University. I went there. I was working with them, and they were one of the universities. I was wondering how come you making this hard? So I went in there with the notion of um, let's just see how this works. And I came into the university environment with a real strong corporate mindset and the mindset of innovation and how things work in the sort of
Mhm.
in the real world, and jumped into the cold, stark reality of what we call higher education, and was a rude awakening
Okay.
to higher
Okay.
education. And I found out two things. So in getting into higher education, I found out two things. One, um, I was right and I was wrong. I was right in that they were doing that wrong. They were doing that wrong. They were
Mhm.
just doing it wrong, right? But I was also wrong in that they had pressures on them that caused them to behave the way they behave that you can't really get from the outside. Outside looking in, you'll never notice that.
Okay.
And
All
there's
right.
very strong pressures in higher education. And I always point out the fact that higher education is a unique part of our sort of overall ecosystem. It's the one place where you take a 17-year-old. Now I don't know if you got kids or not, but if you got kids at all, anybody with kids at all knows
I
that take a
got seven
17-year-old.
kids. I'm with you,
Oh,
Rodney.
I got six. So you and I are like we're here, right? So you know that your children, you're not sure at 17, are they gonna make it? Are they I love them. I love my kids.
Mhm.
But are they gonna make it? And will I give this 17-year-old a scalpel to go cut somebody? I don't think so. If that 17-year-old gonna build my bridge or my airplane, not my 17-year-old, maybe yours, but not mine, right?
Yeah.
We take that 17-year-old, we hand them to higher education. We hand them off. Here, take them, right? We give them a couple dollars. Here you go, right? Send them back to me fixed and ready to do that kind of stuff. And we do that on a regular basis and nobody even thinks about it. We
Wow.
turn those 17-year-olds that you're not sure are going to make it into functional 22-year-olds that could become a surgeon, that could build an airplane, that could write your code, that could do the things that could change the way your world works. They're functional. And
Yeah.
we did that. And we're so good at it now until people believe that whole process should be free. Higher education should be free. Why y'all charging us all that money for that? Right? It's crazy to me but we do it so well. Higher education is terrible at marketing what it does and
Mhm.
how critical it is in that ecosystem. So I said all that just to say that as I'm looking at as a part of the question you asked me, as I'm looking at all of this, it's incumbent on, and when I'm looking at, how did I get here and all that kind of stuff. The notion of me getting into higher education wasn't something I was looking at. I was an engineer, but when I saw that higher education needed engineering, that's where it sparked the thing. My training I can take, and I had some unique pieces to this. Can I fool around and change higher education?
Yeah.
Can I work on that? Can I fix that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting question, right? Because it needs fixing. It's been broke for a long time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Been broke for a long
What a
time.
cool story. because you come from being on the other side of it, and you're like, man, I'm trying to partner with you, and you're just making this so difficult. But then once you got on the inside of that, you're like, oh, I see why this is so difficult for them. And so now coming from the other side of the table, now you can communicate way more effectively across the table now and stuff because now you have insight from both
You got it.
sides.
Hit it right
And
on the head. I call myself, I speak industry, I speak academia, I speak municipal authority. I can speak to governments, and I can speak effectively in the problem solving world and the world of how entrepreneurship ecosystem, that whole how do you bring things to life
yeah,
ecosystem. I'm pretty good at that. So
yeah, yeah.
so I don't know how you get here other than I could take my shirt off, it wouldn't be pretty, and you can see all the scars on my back from all the things that I got to that led me here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what inspires you most, Rodney, about the work you get to do and the impact that you get to
Oh,
make?
the number one thing why I do what I do, transformation,
Hmm.
right? To
Hmm.
actually watch that 17-year-old turn into a functional 22-year-old,
Yeah,
and you had a hand in that,
yeah, yeah,
that's addictive. That's magical. And you get to, and then the 22-year-old might become a 24-year-old with a master's degree that you had something to do with. And who knows, they might be 26 or 27 with a PhD. And you get to work with them. And now I get to work with some high school students, and the magic of putting them into a place that unlocks their curiosity and unlocks their knowledge and all the things they have in there, and putting them in the position to say, hey, go do that.
yeah,
Go
yeah,
do that. You don't got to be 30 to do that. Go do that now. You 18, go do it now. Go
yeah,
try it.
yeah.
Worst you can do is screw up.
That's
Go
right.
try,
That's right.
right? And giving them the space and the tools and all the things that are necessary to say, go try it. And I'm not talking about throwing them in the deep end of the pool with floaties on. No floaties, no like swim. I taught you.
Mhm.
We were in a shallow end, and I showed you how to do this. Now
Yeah,
go swim.
yeah,
Go ahead, swim. And I got some friends who are mentors and professionals, and they're sort of the lifeguards. So if you're really drowning, somebody will jump in.
hmm,
Ain't gonna drown, but you ain't gonna drown anyway. You ain't gonna need that. And so I got Kevin's of the world who are these mentor kind of guys. And if you got into the deep end of the pool on doing podcasts, Kevin jump in, he'll help you out.
hmm,
But you ain't gonna need Kevin. Go swim anyway, right?
yeah,
And so it works.
yeah,
It works. That's what excites me. And it works. It works to watch them transform. That transformation is why I do it. That's why
yeah.
I do.
So what year was this the first time that you got to the higher education side of the table? It was you say it was after 2008, right?
So 2000, I started in 2008, I lost the company. I think I officially started at Wilkes in 2009, like the
Okay.
beginning of
Okay.
2009. Somewhere
Okay.
2008, 2009. Don't hold
Yep.
me on all the dates. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. 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 But so you've been there for a while now. So you've been
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah, I've been in. So I've been in now for a minute. Like
Yeah.
there ain't no turning back now. Like I've
Yeah.
I've had a second career now.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
so yeah.
So what what's a result or two that you've helped a student get you don't have to name names. You can if you want, totally your call. But what's a result you've helped a student get? And give me a couple examples that you're just really incredibly proud of, Rodney.
Yeah. So my favorite is Dr. Conway.
Okay.
Is one. Michelle, as she was Lehman back then, when she first started, was one of my first students in our program when I was
Okay.
at Wilkes. And Michelle wouldn't talk to anybody. Michelle was an introvert. Like she wouldn't
Okay.
talk to anybody. But she's one of the smartest people one of the smartest students I ever met, but she wouldn't talk. By the time she finished being what we call undergrad, we called them scholars back then, but she was an undergraduate student. She worked so well with all the other students and became such a positive force for trying to develop other students. She became my graduate assistant, manning the day-to-day operations
Wow.
at
Wow.
Wills, right? And so when she was getting ready to finish her MBA, I told her she should stay on and be a staff member. Well, that was about the time I was going to come to Alvernia.
Okay.
They didn't have the money at Wilkes to keep her. So I said to her, well, They can't keep you. Come with me to Alvernia. I'll make sure you come. And that was one of the only conditions I said to John when he offered me the job is I need to bring my student with me. And I didn't even ask for a salary. He always laughs at me because I never even really asked for a salary. I figure you're gonna pay me whatever you're gonna pay me. But my demand is I need to bring her with me. He's like, if that's how you want to bring her, I was like, what do I care? So Michelle, and not bringing her, I said to her, you need to finish your PhD in order to finish me because you want to be in higher education, and so you're going to have to finish. And so she was with me here for about 4.5 years. Her and
Okay.
her husband had an opportunity to go somewhere else, and so she chose to go with him. And when she left, she became a a faculty member at a university starting their entrepreneurship program. She just
Wow.
finished her PhD. She just finished, she did what I said. And now she's running their entrepreneurship program. And she's a shining star of what you can do. And Michelle is, I don't know how old she is, but I got socks older than her. But she got a chance to she got a chance to evolve in all those things. And another one is here at Alvernia, one of my favorite is I call him the son of Reading. His name is Adonis Fleming.
Okay.
He he is a super smart kid, super smart. Finished his degree somewhere else. He finished his degree. I think it was school he went to. But he was like a superstar of Reading. He was a basketball player, won the city championship. Everybody knew him. But he was working at uh sort of the Boys and Girls Club kind of thing after school. That was his full-time job. He was, there. And when we opened up our facility here in the downtown, it was 2 blocks from his mom's house. So he saw this happening every day from outside his window. And he's like, what y'all doing down here? Yeah, y'all coming into Reading, y'all get ready to tear up our city and you're gonna gentrify the city. But Adonis is a go-getter. So he didn't just sit from afar and wait to see what happened. We had a job opening for we had a job opening for sort of an admin kind of person and, and,
Okay.
and operations kind of person, which Adonis had nothing on his resume that said anything about admin. Like it's like you applying to be, I don't know, like the race car driver or whatever. Like you got nothing on your resume that says that. But you apply anyway. And so he applied anyway, and so my colleague Don Schalk and I were sitting there interviewing. I don't even know why we chose to interview him, but we chose to interview. And he walks in there, and that this kid was one of the most respectful, most articulate. You could tell he was somebody. You just need to clear, you polished it, but that was gonna be somebody, right? And Don and I, he was interviewing him about 2 minutes in. We were like, you ain't got nothing to do with it. We started interviewing him for a position we didn't have because
Wow.
it was like, how do we
Wow.
keep this kid? So we, at the end of the interview, we said, let us have a minute. Go. He had to go to the bathroom or something, and we said, let's give us a minute. So we got and I sat in the room. How do we keep this kid? Like, how do we keep him? How do we keep this kid? And Don came up. He says, we could use another graduate assistant. Our graduate assistant just left. And I was like, yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. Here's how let's try to that one. And so he came back in and we asked him, we said to him, listen, you ain't forget this, forget whatever the position was called. We ain't gonna do that. We said, but we can hire you if you're interested. Do you have your master's degree? And he was like, nah, I was thinking about it, but I never had it. And so he ended up being one of our graduate fellows. He came in and he helped me start what we call the Cultural Coalition now, where
Okay.
when I was coming into Reading, it was a lot of resistance because there's a lot of local pride here, and you're an outsider coming in. But when I would ask for meetings with leaders, it was one thing for me to ask. But if Adonis was the son of Reading, so if Adonis called somebody, and his family is pretty well known here, he has a very
Okay.
strong family background here. If Adonis asked for a meeting, people would just give him a meeting because Adonis asked for the meeting. Like I'll come to
Mm.
see if Adonis asked. And so Adonis and I spent about 90 different breakfasts together with community leaders, and we had them in and we explained what we wanted to do, and we started the Cultural Coalition. And now we have never looked back. And Adonis um, finished his master's degree with us, was working on his PhD. He worked with me for a few minutes full time, but he is now working in the governor's office. He
Okay.
works in
Okay.
Governor Shapiro's office, and the Shapiro administration is as part of, he calls it the opaque of the governor's office of the state, but he does similar stuff that he did here, but on a much larger scale and in the governor's office. And the governor's office, he got the job. The guy who hired him said, normally we give this to somebody who has connections with it. He says, but your resume was so unique and your background was so unique and what you got to do in that opaque thing until we had to give you a shot. And then he was used to doing and talking, and we put him in position to grow and learn to be that. And so
Yeah.
he,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. Wow.
got a shot.
Wow. What a story. And and what a great example of, just the value of right relationships, and by, you realizing that, like, wow, this guy really has something here. And he's not a right fit for the job that he was applying for, but we're gonna create a position for him because we see value in him. And and then through that, he was able to open all these doors and make all these connections for you guys too and stuff. And man, what a beautiful testament to that. Well, okay, so now that we've got some context set here, and people have a little bit of an idea of who you are, Rodney, and what you're all about, I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to dig deeper and talk more about the relationship side of this.
Okay.
So, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yeah, I mean there are probably 30 also rans, right? There's
Yeah.
two that I would say neck and neck, but there's 30 also rans that, John had a big influence on me. There's my PhD thesis advisors. I had two main
Okay.
advisors, Dr. Rosillo and Dr. Fonash. They did a lot for me in that regard. But I think, and there was a number of other people, Pat Leahy and some of the other people I met in higher education, and some people I met along the way in my career, Tom Harrell and some of the other people who gave me shots. There's a lot of people who gave me shots, but I think the person who I always give the most props to when it comes to where I am today is definitely my grandmother,
Okay. Okay.
my maternal grandmother, my mother's mother, right? And um, I never got the chance to meet my paternal grandparents. They had passed away before I was born.
Okay.
Um, and my maternal grandfather, I never met, so I only had one grandparent that I ever got to interact with.
Okay.
But my grandmother has got to be the wisest person I've ever met. Now, I've met people who could win Nobel Prizes. There's nobody I've ever met with the wisdom she had. She had a fourth grade education, so she wasn't academic. She was just wise. She understood how the world works. The sayings that she has are the sayings that I keep in my head today. Like when I think like her, and like it's in there, like it's ingrained in there, and I'm never gonna be able to get rid of that stuff. And it's her voice in my head when I'm going to do something stupid that I hear. Like, don't do that, don't do stupid. Right? Or when I'm running up against adversity, or I'm doing things, or I'm watching other people in adversity, some of the things that she said, she used to say some things to me like, I'm like, oh, how'd you learn that? How'd you know that? Like, and so I carry that in me, and what she did and how she carried herself inspired me. And she used to call me hard headed. So if I'm gonna write a book one day, and I'm gonna call it, hard headed. That's what and when you're five and your grandma tells you to do something or not to do something and you don't listen, that's hard headed, right? When you're 45 and your boss tells you to do something and you don't do it, you're tenacious. And then when you're 55 and you're running a company and the world tells you you're not supposed to do X and you do it anyway and you're successful, they call you tenacious and successful. And he's an innovator and he's a go-getter. It's all the same thing. It's all hard headed. I was hard headed the whole time. Is the world changed? I didn't. The world changed, and how they looked at me changed. They gave me credentials, and so it went from hard headed to determined because I had credentials behind my name.
There
Still the
you
same
go.
hard.
There you
If my
go.
grandma was here, she would ignore that and say, "You was just being hard headed, boy. Stop." Right. And so everything has, and I always say, and she used to always say, your gift, the Bible always talks about the gift, your gifts will make room for you. And um, your what gets you in trouble. I learned this. What gets you in trouble when you're little is probably what's going to make you unique when you get older.
Mhm.
What got you in trouble when you were little makes you unique when you're older. If you embrace it, but you got to embrace it. You got to embrace who you are. You can't be somebody else. Don't be somebody else. Be who you are. So I embrace being hard headed.
There you go.
I ain't going
Um,
back now. It's too late to go back now.
yep.
So grandmother was number one. I think number two in that mix of who really changed the course of my life. I don't talk about him much, but Frank Wells was. I'm not even sure what his real job was. I don't even know what the organization. He was part of what was known as Prime. It was an organization. It was one of these programs, these City of Philadelphia School District programs that they had. It
Okay.
was called Philadelphia Regional Introductions of Minorities to Engineering, because there wasn't, when I was coming, there wasn't a whole bunch of minorities in engineering. So there was an effort to say, how do we get kids in the inner city prepared for the rigors of engineering? Because there's a lot of hard math and science in
Mhm.
engineering, and it's unforgiving. If you got it, you got it. If you don't, you don't. And no matter how smart you was, if you're not prepared for it, you're not going to succeed in that, because you just got to know it. And so
Yeah.
early on, around third or fourth grade, I was tested, and they do those academic testings. And are you mentally gifted? I was in what they call the mentally gifted program. So they
Okay.
tested. I
Okay.
was off the charts and some aptitude thing, right? And so we got put into these special programs, and I got bused to suburban schools where they had, you know, better prepared. They just had more tools. There was no, I got to learn to do photography in the fifth or sixth grade. We didn't have no photography. We had no dark rooms in the city schools. You ain't no dark
Sure.
rooms. You
Yeah.
had dark rooms, you didn't want to go in them. Right. But they had all that stuff in the suburbs that you could get access to, and I learned. And then as I got more and more into high school and junior high school, and then in high school we started spending summers at universities, and what I learned in all of that was Frank exposed me to uh his he was the one putting me in all these programs, was that I'm not better or worse than anybody in the suburbs, and there are kids who getting 1500s on their SATs, and I didn't get that because I didn't get to take calculus. So how you gonna get a 1500 on your SATs if you didn't get to take calculus? That's gonna be
Yeah.
hard,
Yeah.
right? Not wasn't that I couldn't do calculus. Nobody in our school could teach you calculus.
Just
So
never learned it.
didn't get to it, right? And so, but when I went to these summer programs where they were bringing in kids from all across the region, including the suburbs and what they call these high-end kids, I we would go into these things, and there would be these contests and all this kind of stuff. And we spent the summer there in these cohorts. And, early on, I didn't have the academic training, but I had wisdom. My grandmother had instilled in me how to solve problems. You might know the numbers, but I know how to solve the problem. I could problem solve. It's an excellent problem solver. And so early on, when they were picking teams, I was the guy left off because you only had a 1200 on your SAT. You ain't one of us, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Until after the first competition, when it wasn't about how you take tests, it's about how you solve problems. And my teams were crushing everybody because I was showing them how to solve problems. All of a sudden, week two, I was number one pick every time, right? And which taught me, it doesn't matter. Your grades aren't everything.
Yeah.
Grades aren't everything, and
Yeah.
test taking ain't everything.
Yeah.
Solve the problem. Solve the problem. And I've learned that execution is critical. And
Yeah.
so I've become laser focused, and my teams and all the things we do, we focus on execution and how do you solve the problem, get it done. And I'm hard headed too. So if I run up against a wall, Injury stop me. All right, that ain't the way to go. Go around it, go under it, go over it, go through it,
Mhm.
solve the problem. Right. Some
Mhm.
people see the wall and they stop. I see the wall that can come down. Somebody put that up. Somebody can bring that down and
Mhm.
go through it. My, so I spent most of my life in rooms that, if you look from the outside, I probably shouldn't have been in those rooms.
Yeah.
In there anyway. Somebody kicked me out.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Uh,
So, what's an example of a situation where you personally, Rodney, got to make this really substantial impact? And maybe in the moment, it maybe even surprised you a little bit. And yet you also know that that would have never been possible if not for your relationship with either one of the two people that you just talked about. What's an example of a situation where you were empowered like that?
I think the empowerment that's clear isn't from one of those two. I think it is. So at when I was at Wilkes, we were doing a lot of this entrepreneurial stuff and me trying to get. So what I was trying to do there was I was head of engineering there, and I was trying to get some of our engineering inventions to the marketplace, so
Okay.
commercialize some. One of my faculty members, Dr. Sabuni, had a breast cancer detection system, which we were trying to get to the market, and I was killing myself to get this thing to the market. I had partnerships with our Geisinger and our local places, and we were doing stuff, and we were just close to getting to the market, but it was a lot of headwinds the other way because small schools just don't do that. And it
Okay.
was internal headwinds that were pushing against me, external headwinds that were pushing against me, but I'm hard headed. So we're going to do it anyway. And it was John that recognized that some of the headwinds that were against me were things that could be taken down. And some of them are going to be there anyway, because just hard is hard, right? But sometimes there's obstacles before you that, somebody just moved that obstacle. So John called himself moving the obstacle by hiring me and putting me in position in his cabinet. He was going to be working with me, and we were going to transform how higher education operated. And give these students and these people and the community a chance to be different. And I think the work he and I did, along with all of our rest of the cabinet members and Dr. Fitzgerald, who's our president now, and John McCluskey and all the team we had, we we began to work on this College Town initiative in COVID and really radically transformed how higher education operates and grows to the point now where, when I first started, and the Opaque Institute, which I oversee, was sort of the spearhead of that, um, really transformed the experiential learning for so many students. It's going to be hard to even count.
Yeah.
It's 5 years later. When I first started, it was me. It was Don Shaw, who I told you we were interviewing. Michelle came in just after us. I had an admin, and we had one graduate assistant.
Wow.
It's 5 years later, or 5 or 6 years later. Um, we now have 12 plus graduate assistants, 100 undergraduate students, 12 graduate assistants, and probably 40 different high school interns every semester.
Wow. Wow.
And we impact over 150 businesses a semester. We have so many programs and so many things that are built to help this Reading community. And now we're not just in Reading, we're in Pottsville. And I don't know if you just saw it. It was in the Reading Eagle yesterday. We're going into Allentown. We're going to do the same thing in Allentown. And we're looking at other places and other things. And we've never advertised, we never did any of that stuff, but the experiential learning, the things that these students get to do now,
Yeah.
pound for pound, I'll put up what you get to do in our institute against any school in America. You
Yeah.
bring them,
Yeah.
bring them.
Yeah.
Show me somebody else that you can do this with. Show
Yeah.
me somebody else what these students actually get to do,
Yeah.
not read, not theorize,
Yeah.
put their hands on and accomplish.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they ain't no floaties. They screw up, the whole thing's gonna screw up. We have everything that you ever want to see. And I call us the little institute that could.
Yeah.
It's only,
Yeah.
but and now we're looking at partnerships with places like John, going back with John with Ryder and with other institutions, with other cities. We just signed a MOU with Kamasi University in Ghana. We're looking at going to Europe. We're looking at taking our model. We have a model of how we do this.
Mhm.
And we've written a book about it, and we're writing some books about it, and we're taking it on the road, and we're licensing it out to people. We're going to be, I think we've hit on something. So all of that. So my notion of they were doing that wrong, they were doing that.
Mhm.
And here's the evidence of their doing it wrong.
Yeah.
It was so much so until the president at the time, when I had come into Wilkes at the time, and I said they were doing it that wrong, I went to him to ask him to be the one to help me to bring this breast cancer detection system to life. And he was the first one in higher education told me, Rodney, you can't do that. And why did he say that? Because that does say to me, okay, I'm going to do that now. That Tim Gilmore, he's a good friend of mine now. And we argued about it. And,
He
so
appreciates your tenaciousness.
no, it's even better than that. So I'll tell you this guy, 2 years ago, I loved him because 2 years ago, we used to argue about it all the time. You're wrong, Rodney. You can't do that. Yeah, I'm right, Tim. You're wrong. You're right. You're right. So he was the one that said to me, he gave me carte blanche. I loved him. He said to me, Rodney, I'm not going to help you, but I'm not going to get in your way. You so hard headed. He called me hard headed. You so hard headed. You go do it. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I'm going to give you a fair shot at this. I'm not going to help you, but I'm not going to intentionally sabotage you. You go
Yep.
do it.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, now this is 7 years later. So he retired from Wilkes, a new president came in, blah, blah, blah. It's 5, 6 years later. So Tim's gone. Tim hits me up out of the blue and says, I want to come see you. Out of the blue at Alvernia. He came and saw me and he sat down right here in this office and he said, you know what, Rodney, I got to admit it. You were right. I was wrong. He says, I'll admit it so much so till do me a favor. Let me write the book for you. Let me write the case study. Let me write this up because he's studying how to make higher education better. He says, not only were you right, but I think you have the solution for making higher education better. And I want to write it up and I want to let the world know.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Working with him, we're working with him on that to get the story out, and he's doing it so that we can have a positive effect on higher education itself and how
Yep.
things operate. So
Yep.
nobody could ever say you're doing that wrong again.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
Um, for anybody that might be listening to this right now and thinking to themselves, man, Kevin, I really love Rodney. I love who he is. I love how he shows up. Man, the stories he shared are just incredibly inspiring here. And maybe they'd like to find out more about the work that you guys are doing. Maybe they'd even like to maybe get involved in some way. Any websites, any resources we can share?
Yeah, so alvernia.edu and you go to just hit up the Opaque Institute on that website. I think it's a drop down as the Opaque Institute. You can go there. Um, we have all of our stuff on. We're constantly on social media. You usually find us on Instagram, LinkedIn,
Okay.
Facebook. To find that, I got a bunch of 20-year-olds on me, so I'm all over social media. It looks like I know what I'm doing. I really don't, but it looks like I know. Don't
They
try this at
make you
home,
look
Kev.
good.
Yeah. Don't try this at home. You ain't got the skill, so don't try it at home. I got 20-year-olds. Don't try it at home. Don't hurt yourself. So, um, so they can they if you want us, you can find us, especially on
Okay.
social media. We have a very strong team that does that. So
Very
we're
good.
always out there with all the new stuff that's coming on.
Nice. Well, I'll make it nice and easy. So if you're listening to this, just scroll down below. There'll be links right down there for you. Make it nice and easy for you. Rodney, is there any last thing that you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
Just to anybody listening to I was told a long time ago, don't be um curtailed by your own thinking. So in other words, don't think too small is the best way I can say it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Dream big, think big, think bigger than your wallet, think bigger than your surroundings, think bigger than where you are. Um, as my grandmother used to say, you never get where you don't first set out to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to set out to get there.
That's
If
right.
you don't ever set out to get there, you'll never get there. You're never going to get there. So think bigger. And I love your show because the way you get there is you never get there usually alone.
That's right.
You partner with others, and it's okay not to do it by yourself. You know, what does it say? You want to get there fast, go alone, and get there, and go far, go with others, right?
That's right.
So I say, find the people in your life that are going to help you reach your potential and always be reciprocal. So don't always think about how they're going to help you. Also
Yep.
think about how you're going to inspire others
Absolutely.
the fun is in the journey. It's not the fun isn't in the destination. It's in the journey. And And I'll leave you with this one. Do not despise the day of small beginnings, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't underestimate what's happening to you now may seem like it's stupid as all heck or doesn't have anything bearing on your life. And then 20 years later, it's going to be that lesson that you learned
You
20 years ago
bet.
that's going to help you take that major next step. And you just don't know
Absolutely.
what that is. So go along for the ride and treat it all like it has value because eventually it will.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Rodney, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. And I'm excited to get this out there and share with a lot of folks. So thanks so much, Rodney.
And I'm going to say thanks to John because John, Dr. Loyak, as I call him, for setting us up together.
You bet. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, John.
Okay.